Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's Resto, and we're going to be going over the tier list. This is something that I asked you guys if you guys would be interested in seeing, and a lot of you said yes. So we're going to go ahead and go over some of my opinions on these classes. Now, the way I'm doing it isn't going to be how the class performs. I'm going to be basing this off of my PvP experience. For those who don't know me, a little bit of a background. The highest I've been in a rated battleground was about 2800, competed in a couple of Twink tournaments, done many war games throughout the community's time of wanting to organize these things. So battlegrounds is a little bit of my specialty in terms of playing in a more competitive scene, and I feel like this would be a very good tier list to kind of help figure out what class to go with, or just exactly how to build your compositions. Now, when it comes to a battleground, there's a lot of things that you guys have to consider, and that is, you know, what your team has to bring to the table. Are you having enough CCs on there? Are you having enough pressure? You know, if you have like a comp that's just filled with warriors, right? You're not really going to get anywhere. However, if you have a little bit of a mix of, let's say, you know, your FC, you got some healers, you got some DPS, you know, you got a little bit of working around with to do, right? Now, the DPS goes a really long way in terms of how your team performs. So you really want to make sure the DPS that you bring to your team, or just have in general in the battleground, are DPS that are going to make or break a play in the game. So what I mean by that is, let's say your FC grabs the flag, right? And then you guys are controlling mid, because in a so this is what, like, it gets real weird. So when you play in a competitive BG compared to a normal BG, the play styles are completely different, night and day. Like, it's bizarre. So I'm going to be, from here on out, I'm going to be talking in a perspective of a competitive battleground, not a random battleground. So back to what I was saying before we got sidetracked. Let's say your FC grabs the flag, you guys are controlling mid, you guys are doing your thing, and let's say the FC didn't get out very safely, right? Let's say he died, he didn't really get to the team. So all right, now you collaborate with your team. All right, guys, this is what's happening, this is what they have on D. I need some help. So you'll have a DPS peel off from that team fight, and having one person peel off from that team fight, that brings you one less player in the middle, right? So you need to make sure that the team that's controlling mid is able to stabilize themselves enough to take away one player, if that makes sense. So you need to have some sort of backbone. Now, the person peeling off needs to be mobile. Can't be someone slow. However, it can, but it's more ideal if you have like a hunter. In later expansions, you have druids. You can have a shaman. You can have all kinds of people that, you know, have a lot of high mobility peel off and go and attend this. And I know in later inspections, this is when mages get blink, so you guys can have mages even peel off. A lot of people think mages suck, and that's not the case at all. Mages bring a lot to the table, and that's why I really wanted to talk about the tier list. When I was seeing all these tier lists, like, everyone was ranking mages low, they're useless. That's not the case at all. If you have somebody playing, and this goes for any class, guys, this isn't just for mages. If you have anybody that actually knows how to play the class, they can be absolute powerhouses. Now, if you look here on the actual tier list, the way I ranked these, like I said, it wasn't based off of, you know, the performance of the class. It was more so of like, what would I bring to a comp for a competitive war game? And what I have in the S tier is your druid, your priest, and then your shaman. The reason why I put the druid in the S tier, because this is your designated FC. It's always going to be your FC. No one else is going to be an FC other than a druid. The mobility is just too nice. The armor from bear is just going to be too great. Like, there's nothing that really compares to a druid, and this even goes for further expansions. You can have other classes grab it and then drop it and pass it to your FC. You know, that's something that's ideal. That's a realistic scenario. But if we're looking at an actual, you know, all-time full-time FC, we're looking at druids. You know, there's just nothing that compares to them. They just bring too much to the table. There's a lot that a druid brings as an FC. And then I brought priest because in every single composition, guys, you're going to have a priest. Priests are so essential. The bubbles, the hots, the heals, everything that a priest has to offer in terms of healing is just too great to pass up. You cannot not have a priest in your comp, guys. This is like a must needed. And then I also put a shaman in the S tier. These guys make really good healers, believe it or not, but this the main thing that I really like about shamans is their sheer. Being able to have a CC in the BG, guys, is absolutely massive. This can set up a lot of kills. This can set up a lot of potential for a push, and this can make or break, you know, getting that flag capped or not. A lot of people don't really consider CCs. They don't really consider the utility that a lot of classes have to bring, and shamans bring a lot of that. Not only are they just an all-around good versatile class, but they just bring a lot to the table. Now that brings us to the A tier with the hunters, the warlocks, and the warriors. Now you're probably wondering why is a hunter in the A tier, not the S tier. Like I said, guys, this isn't based off of, you know, what's better than the other. I mean, this is just how I'm ranking it in terms of, you know, bringing to the table. So what I'm putting here is this is going to be your main DPS, guys. This is what's mainly going to make or break your comp here. I put the hunters in the A tier for obvious reasons. These are going to be your main DPS, guys, in terms of just all around being a good player on your team. They make really good players for breaking off to kill the EFC. They make really good players for breaking off to assist your FC. You know, they're really good in team fights. This is something that's really essential to have. However, too many of them are useless. They're absolutely useless. If there's too many of them, I wouldn't bring more than 2. You know, 1 or 2 is what I would bring to the composition, but anything after that, they're just useless. There's no use for them. They're easily counterable when you bring more. You need to have an even balance, guys. That's why when I laugh when I see in these random battlegrounds, it's just a BG full of hunters. I can't stress how many times I've won against those comps just because they have nothing to bring to the table. Yeah, it's a lot of outbursts, but when you actually have a team going against them that's actually geared and like knows what they're doing, they can shut hunters down easily. All you have to do is get a shaman, go up, run up into them, and pop your totem to slow them down. I can't think of the name at the top of my head right now. Earthbind totem. So go ahead and pop that onto them, slow them down, get a warrior to go on top of them, pop hamstring. I mean, they're just dead in seconds. There's just really no reason to have more of them. Now, the reason why I have a warlock, a lot of people, you know, kind of look down upon on warlocks as if like they're useless, they're squishy, you know, they're gonna die so quick, and that's not the case at all, guys. Warlocks bring so much to the table in terms of DPS. You will always see a warlock on the top of the DPS charts when it comes down to a Warsong Gulch with these guys. Even in Arathi Basins, I don't think that comes in until Cataclysm now. When it comes down to a warlock, guys, they bring a lot of utility to the table, not just really high dot damage and spread and rotting their comp, but you're looking at CC as well. You know, they have fear, they have pets, you know, there's a lot of stuff that a warlock can bring that a lot of people kind of overlook. You know, those fears go a long way in terms of setting up kills within the team fights. You know, it's no different than, you know, a shaman with CC. You know, when you have multiple CC in your composition, that's huge because you're able to control the fight, what's going on around you, especially when there's communication. There's a lot of stuff going on in those comms that you need to be able to communicate, and CC is a big thing. You know, making sure you're getting it onto the right people so that way you guys can set up a kill to win the team fight and get onto their graveyard to control so that way your FC can cross safely. Now, with a warlock, you know, there's many different ways to play it, but they're mainly going to be in your team fight. You know, this is a really good class that should not be overlooked, and this is something that's definitely should be considered in terms of bringing to your composition. I would have one in every comp, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I would go a BG without one. I mean, they're just so nice to have. And then I have warriors. So a lot of people are like, why is a warrior an A tier, not B or C tier? Like, once again, this is what's going to be in your composition, guys. You always want some sort of phase to your comp, and warriors bring a lot to that. You know, you don't want full casters, you know, being or running around. However, you can do that there is nothing wrong against going against a full team of casters. It doesn't really, change a lot of things. It is very doable. However, there's a lot of communication that needs to happen for that to even be done. What's nice about a warrior is, it's going to be your front line. It's going to be your main focus. A lot of people in the back of the comp are going to be able to, focus on casting, getting things off, while everyone else is focusing on the warrior. Now, when it comes to being a warrior in a composition like this, especially in competitive war games, you need to know how to play it. You need to know how to swap stances. You can't just sit in battle stance the whole time. You need to know when to peel off, when not to peel off. This is something that, will make or break if the warrior is even worth bringing to the composition. But I'm looking at it as a high tier comp. Everyone knows what they're doing, and that's how I'm rating these classes. If somebody knows how to play a warrior, they can bring so much beneficial value to the team, because it allows the back casters, the backfield, to be able to do what they need to do without any type of interruption. If you don't have a face, what's really happening is everybody's kind of spread out. Everyone's focusing on whoever. Anyone can be a main target, but when you have somebody in the front, that's going to be your main pressure. That's what's going to be your setup. He's going to bring the pressure onto the main target that you guys are focusing on. It's going to help set up a lot of kills. So this is something that I definitely recommend in any comp that you go with, is having a warrior or some sort of melee, to have that front face of your composition. And then that brings us to the B tier, and in here I have the mage and the paladin. Now, the reason why I have mages and paladin here, because these guys aren't always going to be in your composition. Yes, they are good classes. A lot of people think mages suck. It's a very, very, very underrated class. Not a lot of people, look at mages and be like, I want to make a mage twink. Dude, mage twinks are amazing. They definitely should be made. I wish I seen more of them, because they are so good in classes. And you probably were like, well, I'm talking up this mage. Why isn't he up here in the higher tiers? Well, that's because you're not going to bring a lot of mages to your comp. You don't want to have loads of mages. Same thing with the hunter. You don't want to bring more than 2. Anything after that, you're just kind of killing it. Warlocks, however, you can bring up to 3. I wouldn't go to 4. I would stick to 3. 3 at max. You don't want to go anything higher than that, but you can go lower than that. But with mages, you're looking at a lot of CC. These guys are really good at slows. These guys are really good at polys. They don't have counterspell yet. So, I mean, when that comes into later expansions, that makes them even better. But they're really, really good for the slows and the polymorphs. That you got to understand, there are really good DPS classes out there that are better than mages. However, you don't want to not consider a mage just because it's not bringing high-end DPS. You got to look at the aspect of like, okay, they're bringing really good slows. They have novas, they can keep people rooted. They have polymorphs, they can keep out CC constantly, spread out throughout the team fights. There's a lot of stuff that these guys bring. Yes, it's mainly known for having them as a CC. However, they do provide good DPS as well if they're able to, focus on free casting and not so much of a CC. What they're mainly doing in team fights, their main objective is to get the polymorphs out. Same thing with warlocks and the shamans, is to get those CCs set out so that way the team can perform the kill and kill the main target and move on. That's why mages are really viable in a lot of compositions, because they bring that to the table that not a lot of other classes can bring. Warlocks, I would say, is the most similar to a mage because of their fear. However, they don't have slows like a mage. So the fact that they have slows on top of CCs and top of roots, that's really huge. So that's why I feel like mages are really good. And same with paladins. So paladins, they are very good DPS classes. They're very good healing classes. I understand that they have a lot like Bop. They have a lot like Freedom. A lot of this stuff matters, yes. However, they don't make or break a lot of games. So that's one of the reasons why I put them in the B tier, because you're not really looking at a paladin like, all right, I need to have a paladin. You can go a game without a paladin. They're not going to be all breaks all. This is a class where you can go without. However, if they are brought, they are very nice to have. They have a lot of things to bring to the table. Their utility is amazing. It's really good to have Freedom on a FC, to prevent slows. However, Freedom can be purged. This is something that you don't always get to have 24/7. So I mean, you got to consider those factors as well. That's nice about having the Bop is it can save somebody on a last second kill. If a shaman's smart, they can purge that as well. However, though, that Bop at the meantime can save somebody from dying, and this is like what's really nice of having a paladin, they're really good strong single target healers as well, so this could be a really good defensive healer. I wouldn't necessarily bring them into the offense, because a lot of the times on D you're going to have your shamans, and the shamans can purge literally everything, so that's why I really wouldn't consider bringing a paladin to your offensive push. However, I would keep them on your defensive push, because you're not going to have a lot of shamans pushing on O. So when it comes down to the paladins and the mage, I keep them on the B tier for those obvious reasons. And then finally we have the D tier. I'm skipping C tier because D tier is just perfect for this class. It's just the rogue. A lot of people are like, why are you ranking rogue the lowest? Guys, this is the most overrated class ever. They honestly are not that great. Rogues suck. There's nothing that the rogue brings to the table that's even worth having other than sap and gouge. You know, they have kick, they can CC, that's great, but they just don't bring anything to the table. Their mobility sucks, their damage output isn't even that great. Yes, they can bring high pressure, but you need to have a lot of people in your composition to complement this, which is mainly a melee class, but having a full melee team against casters just is not ideal whatsoever. So you want to have that good even balance. But with rogues, I mean, there is one composition that I would bring them in. The only reason I would bring a rogue, guys, is for the sap. Being able to stealth into the offensive team, or with the offensive team I should say, and being able to sap a healer and then open up on the FC, and then having kicks and gouges on the healer, and the process of killing the FC is huge. However, the rogue isn't really that great in terms of bringing them into current compositions in Wrath of the Lich King. However, if we speak of later expansions, definitely bring a rogue. Rogues are definitely huge. They're definitely really good to bring because of the DPS output that they're able to provide from ambush. However, in current expansion of Wrath of the Lich King, no, it's not really that great. Yes, they have good ambush DPS. There's a lot of big burst damage, but once you get out of their opener, they're just useless. So that's why I'm putting them in the D tier. I really wouldn't bring them in a comp. Even in later expansions, in we're looking at Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, I'm still not bringing a rogue because they're just not that viable. You have to really have a good team to really make a rogue good. So this is why I'm bringing them in the D tier. Now, after this, I want to show you guys a couple of compositions that I would run or recommend. So as you guys can see here, these are a couple of comps that I would put together. I'll kind of explain, each and what each one means. So we're looking at the first comp here. Now, like I said, I just took the S and all this stuff out because I find it useless. There's really no reason to have this here. This is just kind of an example, a layout of, different types of comps. So obviously you're going to see Druid in every single comp. This is your FC. You need an FC. You cannot go without an FC. And then, as you can see, a Priest is in every single comp, guaranteed. No matter what, you need a Priest, guys. These guys are huge. They're going to bring a lot to the table. You're going to be able to, really sustain your team fights with a Priest. So we'll focus on the main comp here. Well, not the main comp, the first comp. So this is a nice comp that I would run. You got your FC, you got your 2 Priest healers, and then you got a Shaman healer, and then your DPS is going to be a Warrior, 2 Warlocks, a Mage, a Hunter, and a Paladin. Now, a Paladin can be used however you guys want to be utilizing it. It can be, the holy DPS build. It could be a hybrid of DPS and heals. It could be a full out, another warrior. It could be a frontline, whatever you want this class to be. Regardless, it's going to be in the front line with the warrior. So, I mean, if anything, you could put it over here. But this Paladin can be, whatever your team feels like it needs the most. What does your team lack in? Not everyone's going to be 100% a pro, so maybe your team lacks a little bit on the DPS side for frontline. So maybe you want to make that Paladin a frontline DPS. Maybe the heals are kind of lacking a little bit because maybe your team lacks in, being able to peel off for your healers. So maybe this could be a holy DPS build, so that way you can have that good even balance between the two. So that's what's nice about this first comp, is being able to provide, you know, a well-balanced kind of composition. You got your DPS right here for rotting, you got your mage here for CC, you got a hunter here. I feel like a hunter should be in every single comp, guys, because it's very nice to have one in terms of peeling, being able to fall back and like put pressure on the EFC, slow down the EFC, that way your team can make a connection with it. There's a lot that this hunter can do. And then obviously you got your front line here. What's nice about having the shaman for a healer, because not only are they really good healers, but they can provide that shear. That shear is going to be huge for putting out CCs. I feel like it should always be used no matter what. It should never like not be on CC, or not on CC, on cooldown. You know, this needs to be on cooldown 24/7. You know, pump out those CCs, guys. Make sure you're utilizing your buttons. And then you got the 2 priests here for double bubbles, and then you're looking at a lot of hots and a lot of strong heals going out to your team. So you guys really should never really fall off. What's nice about the 2 priests is, yes, they're gonna go because, you know, you're maintaining a lot here, but what's nice about the shaman is they're able to provide for one or the other while one is going to drink, so you can still keep up a lot with the shaman. So that's really nice about the first comp. Now we have a comp pretty similar to like the middle comp. This is something that I would really like running. It's something that's really nice to have that can provide a lot of pressure in your team fights. You got your generic, you know, setup, your Druid, your 2 priests, and then you got your shaman for being a healer. But what's nice is you got 3 warlocks. So what this is nice is you can consider this, or not consider this, kind of like relate to the retail version of having 3 boomies at endgame. You know, they're just designed to absolutely rot team fights, produce as much damage as possible, make your healers go or not make your healers, make their healers go because you're just providing so much DPS out there. There's a lot of healing output that needs to happen, and I'm sure there's going to be priests out there that are going to want to dispel absolutely and anything. Is everything on the field they're going to want to dispel, so it's going to make them go even more. I love going against priests like that because they just go so quick, and then I just run away free and they can't do anything about it. So that's what's nice about having the 3 locks, is just to be able to provide a lot of dots at everybody, just a lot of really strong rotting DPS going out. And then when a target gets low, your team can communicate that. The hunter can provide that on-site pressure with whatever the warrior is going on to. But what's nice is the 2 warriors can both go onto that one target and perform and execute and ultimately finish out your opponent. So it's really nice in team fights, is to having the 2 warriors, is to have that, you know, double frontline DPS and be able to help confirm that kill and spread even more dots out. Because you have to consider, guys, we got Serpent Sting, we got absolutely, and I want to say the best dots in the game right now from a warlock, and then you got Rend. So it's a lot of dots going out on these characters. Only these can be dispelled, Rend can't. So Ren's always being spread out, and if a warrior really knows how to maximize his DPS and team fight and not actually go full zug, those Rens can be spread out throughout the entire team. And what's nice is that's extra damage for the warlocks to be able to work with, and then the hunters can help confirm those kills, get the people low enough to where it's like, all right, let's make the swap on this target, and then these 2 can go onto the main target the hunter's been really going on. The hunter is really there just to focus on a single target DPS and help get that one person that you guys want to make a swap to low enough for the warriors to make that swap and make the kill. So that's what's really nice about this comp. It's really set up to really have a good organized setup for the kill. What I really like as well is this bottom comp. This is a really good comp to have for all time, you know, to CC, getting out and performing a kill. What's nice is you got the Druid for the FC, the 2 priests for the healers, and then you got a Holy Paladin instead of a Resto Shaman. And then your DPS, as you can see, there's no warriors. So what I'm going to do here is going to have a shaman. This is going to be, you know, your ultimate DPS for CC, you know, frontline pressure. Not so much frontline pressure. This is more so like a background, like full casting type comp. But this is really, the shaman's going to be more of your frontline, if anything. You got your 2 hunters. This is going to be really nice, you know, for people to be able to have to have all-time kind of pressure on one person and to be able to provide any type of peels, any type of fallbacks. You know, these two hunters can peel off from the team fight and go kill the EFC and then return back to the team fight to help out with that. And then you got your two mages here. This is really nice for slows and extra CCs going out. And then you got your warlock for dots, more CC as well. You know, this is an all-around very good comp to run. This is a really good comp that I would kind of resort to if, you know, let's say we're kind of losing some games and we really need to pick up, you know, the team fight. This is a really good team fight comp. You know, it's an all-around good comp to have, you know, for all-around CC, all-around pressure. It's got a very balanced of everything. It's not really designated to this. This is more of a DPS rot. This can be shut down, like this middle comp that I was talking about. This can be shut down if done properly. However, it's not going to be done easily. This comp right here is just an all-around good hybrid of everything. It's a lot of good pressure, but it doesn't sacrifice CC at the same time. So that's why this comp's a really nice comp to kind of go with. And then like there's a comp that's similar to this. This can go like many different ways. This is a comp that I would like to have for, you know, something that's not too serious. I wouldn't want to put this in a game where I'm going for money or some type of title, you know, or just like high rating, you know, this because, and at least in Wrath of the Lich King, I wouldn't do that. But the reason why is, but you have your FC, your priest, and then you have two paladins, which are holy paladins. This is really nice for Bob, extra freedoms, extra really strong single target heals. A lot of these guys, you can have a paladin go on offense and one stay on defense, or you can have two paladins stay on defense and have a priest go on offense. That's another really good way to go about things as well. The only reason why you would have a paladin go on offense, because let's say maybe the pressure is really strong on D and they can't really get past. There's a lot of slows going out. So what you would do is have a paladin go, provide the freedom to kind of get you to where you need to go, provide any type of bops for anyone that's getting low from the DPS that's being thrown out at them. Maybe they can't get up the ramp in time. So the paladin is really there to help with that, and I'll provide a lot of single target heals for the team to kind of advance into the EFC. And then you got your warrior and two hunters. This is going to be a very strong DPS combo for single target DPS. And then what you got here is two shamans and a mage. The mage is going to be mainly used for the slows and the CC to kind of help support for the warrior and the shamans. The mage is going to help the warrior kind of connect with everything. The shamans are here for CC. That's 2 shears, guys. That's nuts. On top of totems and extra DPS that the shamans like to provide as well. So having these two Ellie shams or enhancement shamans, whatever they want to be, don't really recommend enhancement in Wrath of the Lich King. It's good to kind of do a hybrid when it comes to a shaman. But anyways, this is really nice to have in the composition because you're having a lot of like single target CC going out here, and then you got the mage, you know, being able to slow and help the connections happen between these two. So this is a really good comp to run for just like, you know, something that's fun. However, me personally, I really don't think this would go far in a like a rated battleground or any type of, you know, tournament that's gonna, you know, win you money, because this is right here is it's iffy only because of the paladins. That's the only thing that's making this composition iffy. It's really ideal to have 2 priests, guys. It's just meta. It needs to happen. So having the 2 paladins, it can make or break the comp. It's very iffy. That's the only reason why this comp would be like possibly considered of being actually in a tournament or not. These DPS wise, there's nothing wrong with this at all. Nothing at all. There's a lot of good pressure going out, a lot of good CC going out. It's just a healing comp that would make or break it, because you got to understand the team needs to survive those team fights. The FC needs to stay alive. Defense wise, this is a great healing comp, right? Because defense, you got a paladin and a priest, so that's huge. And then you have the option to having a paladin or a priest, or double paladin, you know, either or, whatever you want to do for defense. There's a lot to work around here, rather than having, you know, the priest and the shaman kind of combo, or even the priest and the 1 paladin. So having double priest on defense is ideal, and having one of these healers go on offense is kind of like, you know, one of the more go-to. It really depends on whether or not they have a shaman. The shaman on either or team really makes or breaks what goes on offense, because that shaman can purge everything and anything. So that's the only downside with that. Of having a paladin going offense with a shaman on defense, is the shaman can just purge everything off, so that does suck. So it's better to have them on defense. However, you know, there are times where you risk it and you send a paladin on O instead, because of the single target healing that they're able to provide, and they can provide more pressure doing so because they're always going to be topped off. Priest, they can do that, but it's not going to be as consistent as a holy paladin because of how strong those single target heals are. I've seen even in current BGs a couple of days ago, I was actually queuing a couple of my twinks and seen a holy paladin, and he was just pumping out heals. It was nuts. But it was really nice having him on the team, because, you know, he was able to provide that type of the support, you know, for our team to be able to be stabilized throughout the entire game. So it was nice. He didn't go as much because, you know, we were pretty dominating, so there was that. But I mean, these are just kind of examples of like what I would run when it comes to a Warsong Gulch and being able to put a game together and having a composition to run with. Now, once we get into like other BGs and we have, you know, more of a variety to kind of use, my comps would change absolutely 100%. You got to consider, when you're making a composition, you got to consider every single battleground, right? That's the art of creating your composition for BG, or a war game, I should say, is because you have to make sure that your class or your team is set up and good to go for any scenario, you know, whether it's Warsong Gulch, whether it's, you know, Eye of the Storm, whether it's, you know, a Wrathy Basin. I understand not all of that is really in Wrath of the Lich King for 19s right now, but I'm just saying in general, you know, that's what you have to think about when you're making these compositions, and that's where my tier list came from, is just figuring out, you know, what class is more viable, and that's why I like making the tier list based off of that, rather than, you know, what does the class have to bring, what DPS does the class provide. You know, I don't really care about that because that's irrelevant. You have to look at how you're playing the class. DPS means absolutely nothing, guys. You can go a whole game and get shit on by DPS, but dominate in objectives and win the game. Winning is all that matters. If you're focusing on objectives and utilizing your class for CC to provide that win, that is all that matters. You can do no DPS all game, provide all the CCs, all the slows, everything that you need to do what you need to do to win the game, and you will still be on top no matter what, because you focused on the objective and you played your class to its fullest ability and what it was designed to do. If you're just playing a twink and you're just doing it to do damage and see big numbers on your screen, you're twinking all wrong. However, I'm not going to tell you how to play your twink, but if you want to play to win, that's what you got to do. You have got to play for objectives, and using these classes in that way will get you there. So that's how I'm kind of ranking off these classes. I hope you guys kind of like got a good perspective on like what class to choose and what they can bring to the table. That will help better understand, you know, when it comes to making a twink. A lot of people emphasize rogues and hunters because of the strong DPS, but they don't really see what they can actually do. As you can see, there's really no use for a rogue. However, they are fun to play, so I mean, I do recommend that. Play that for the fun aspect of things, but in terms of like war games and whatnot, they're not really useful. So go ahead and make another class. But I hope you guys do learn something from this. I hope this helped better out or better kind of broaden out what you guys want to choose or just go about things. This is just my opinion. Like I said, this isn't like a go-to. This has to be done this way. This is just how I view things. So take this with a grain of salt, however you guys want to view this. I'm using my past experience with, you know, high rated battlegrounds for this and how I would kind of run things in terms of putting a team together. So other than that, you know, if you guys want to see any other type of video, guide, whatever the case is, go ahead and comment that down below. I'm more than welcome to kind of do that for you guys. I do enjoy making these videos and kind of talking over things. If you guys want to see more gameplay videos, I can produce those as well. Completely up to you guys, what you guys want to see. But like I said, once again, hope you guys learned something new from this. Hope you guys took away a lot and it kind of helped you guys think about some things a little bit. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. So it's been Resto, guys. See you guys next time.